Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. My next guest is Mike Lytle. Mike is the CEO of Teleperformance for the USA, the Philippines, and Canada. Teleperformance has nearly 25,000 employees in the US and 500,000 employees worldwide. Mike took on the role of the CEO of Teleperformance in the US in 2012. He is a passionate and strategic leader who has honed his expertise. He actually started at the company as an agent himself in 1998, rose through the ranks, was promoted to VP of Operations, and worked his way up to CEO. Today, we are talking about AI in the contact center. We're going to look at change management, adoption, success. And there's so many unanswered questions with AI in the contact center. Today, we're going to find out how is Mike training his 500,000 employees on AI in the contact center. What type of work are the agents doing? What are some of the change management struggles and opportunities, and so much more? Please enjoy Mike Lytle. This episode is sponsored by Teleperformance. For more on Teleperformance and the services they offer, head over to teleperformance.com. Mike, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. I am so thrilled you're here because you are on the forefront of literally one of the companies that's doing so much with something I'm so interested in. So welcome.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to a fantastic conversation.
So you don't even know this, Mike, but I have a little blurb in my new book about Teleperformance and the work you guys are doing with AI. You didn't even
Awesome.
know that before we started recording.
Well,
So
now I'm
you
going to
guys
have
are
to read the
getting,
book.
yes, that would be great. But anyway, I mean, you're a perfect person for the show because you literally started on the phones in the hot seat as an agent. Tell us about the highlights of your career journey of climbing all the way to the top, now being the leader of this company.
Yeah, I think, as you said, I started out in school. Like many people who joined the call center, didn't mean to make a career out of it. But as I got talking to customers, helping people solve problems, coaching and developing teams, once I got a hold of teams, I fell in love with the industry and with customer experience in general. I worked in the US for a number of years. My first international assignment was in Mexico. I then relocated to the Philippines. I was there for 13 years. Went to China, Malaysia, back to Philippines, back to the US again. I've worked with over 400 clients, again, helping them solve truly interesting problems, and of course, forming some deep and meaningful relationships along the way.
So you're somebody that took this opportunity and really took it all the way to really understand what is it like to walk a mile in the customer's shoes, and then take that with you as you become CEO. Let's just step back a minute and kind of look at some of the trends happening. Obviously, the whole industry is going through a lot right now, a lot of
Mm.
change. Can you just talk about technology and just kind of what you're seeing now as we deal with this new exciting technology, embrace it or not embrace it with AI?
Yeah, I think one of the great things about technology in the CX domain is that we've been through multiple revolutions, whether it was early adoption of PCs, whether it was smartphones, self-service, IVRs. There have been a huge number of technologies that have been added to the contact center domain, and we've been able to integrate those into our service delivery for our clients and for their end customers. With each step of those, we do see volumes move out of the voice domain. But what it allows us to do is to focus on those that really need a human connection, empathy, emotional intelligence. That's what's reserved for us when we do have to pick up the phone. I think as we step into AI, there are lots of misconceptions about what AI is and what AI isn't and how long it's been around or not. When we think about AI, there's a couple of different buckets. You have RPA, which has been around for more than 2 decades and is very mature, well embedded in most organizations. There's conversational AI, which is the sort of FAQs, programmable interaction with a bot that many have been doing for more than a decade. And then recently, people have been enamored with ChatGPT and other large language models that truly are a step change from the prior iterations, but are still finding their place in the CX and broader business setting, I would say.
So I know our audience really wants to know, how are you using AI in your contact centers?
Yeah, so we've been using AI, generative AI, since GPT-3. We've had a number of different pilots. Today, we have 60 different proprietary AI solutions that we deploy with our clients, and we have those deployed across more than 600 clients as we sit today. Some of the ones that I like the most are generative AI knowledge base. As somebody, as you said, who's been on the phones talking to customers, one of the most frustrating things is trying to find an answer in a knowledge management system. You do a quick search, you get a bunch of links back, you try and decide which one might be relevant for your individual customer issue. You read a page worth of information and you maybe come up with an answer. By leveraging generative AI to ingest knowledge management systems, we can have a simple conversation as a frontline agent with the knowledge system and get customer language to be able to answer a customer's query. Another one of my favorites is interaction analytics. And for those who aren't familiar, today we're able to take a voice interaction, translate it to text, ingest that, and get specific learnings from that content, right? What that allows us to do is to deliver specific targeted coaching opportunities to our front line and a massive amount of business insight to our client partners. Information that would have taken them months, if not years, to collect historically. Those are two of my personal favorites. They kind of come together into a third, which we call digital floor walker. So if you think about the early life cycle of an employee, as they're still learning the job a bit, they have a ton of questions. And this digital floor walker becomes that supervisor, that help, that team leader that gives them answers when they need it the most. Those are just a couple of the implementations that we've done so far. And those typically generate a positive impact to the customer experience, or NPS, depending on which measure you use, as well as significant improvements in productivity and speed to competency.
Digital floor walker, would you describe that as a coaching mechanism?
Um, if you think about like when employees first graduate out, most of us have SMEs who will walk the floor and answer questions. It sort of replaces that.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. So one of the things that I'm personally interested in is the change management piece of this. And
Mhm.
honestly, I'm currently working on a course about this. It's very hard to find research on change management as we bring AI into contact centers. Could you give us a sneak peek into how you manage this, how you manage the agents that are grappling with so much change, and how you manage these agents successfully through these times of change?
Yeah, I think any change management program requires conversation with all levels of the team, from the front line up to senior leadership. Everybody has to understand what the key objectives are of a particular implementation. And the way we choose to implement AI with our partners is use case by use case, rather than taking a big bang approach, so that there are specific targeted outcomes that we're going to drive. And most of those come up through conversations with our front line about the things that are most frustrating, things that take them
Mm-hmm.
time, that cause friction, that their customers don't appreciate about the way the system works today. And then we communicate back with our employees as we do those implementations on what the impact is to the business, to the customer, and importantly, to their ability to achieve outcomes. The next part of change management is about upskilling and cross-skilling, because as we increase productivity and efficiency, those employees now can serve a wider range of things, which requires a new skill set, investment in additional training on understanding customers' more emotional side of a conversation, right? Anybody who's had to interact with customer service typically is doing so because there's a problem, not because they want to ring the company and tell them what a great job they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Would you say that the agents are excited about AI? Are they a little nervous? What are the feelings about it?
For sure, our agents understand the narrative that's out in the world that AI is going to replace humans.
Yeah.
And we give a lot of communication about where our business is going, how we work through AI implementations with our customers, and the role that we see employees continuing to play in that important process. I think a lot of people have adopted this idea of humans in the loop and making sure that there's a check on things that are going to go out from a large language model because of some of the issues that are still to be worked through in terms of hallucinations, in sometimes creating their own processes, which has happened in a couple of organizations who are early adopters. But really, I think in any case, open communication with your employees about what you're doing, the role that they can play in it, helps to take care of some of those fears.
Yeah. And in the book, I mentioned that I wrote about teleperformance in my book about how agents are training the AI right now. Is there a fear that they're training an AI that might replace them, or like what are your predictions about that? And how did that partnership work?
As we've stepped into reinforcement learning and tuning specific models, we look at it from a couple of dimensions. One is an industry specific dimension and making sure that we have specific training sets for, say, healthcare, banking, travel and hospitality. There are commonalities across multiple organizations and how they interact, what the common issue types are, and things like that. So that layer at an LOB or vertical level is one component. The other
What
side that
is
we
LOB for people that don't know?
line of business.
Okay.
Um, and so those are things like trust and safety, where we're doing content moderation and things like that. And then the other side is CX or contact center independent of industry. So those are things like digital floor walker, interaction analytics that we talked about earlier that are applicable regardless of the industry. To your base question of how do employees feel about it, there is that fear of replacement, but with every technology implementation that we've had, it's ultimately led us to more interactions, more share of wallet with our clients, and more job opportunities. Teleperformance has been a growing business for the 25 years I've been here and well before that.
So let's look at some of the success stories. There are some case studies about how AI has really improved productivity. Do you have any success stories you could share with us about how you're helping clients achieve their business goals with AI in the contact center?
Absolutely. I have a customer who delivers products, and we've taken a full digital approach to their operations. So from digital containment strategy, we've been able to keep 30% of their original voice interactions in digital channels. And when I say containment, what I mean is resolution in that channel. It doesn't require for the customer to ultimately reach out back again via voice, chat, or others. With the tools that I mentioned, whether it be Digital Floor Walker or others, we've been able to drive a 30% improvement in productivity. That's both in existing experienced employees and even more so on new employees who are onboarding into the system. Importantly, we've also generated a 10% improvement in customer experience for that client. So overall, it's been a massive transformation for them and a far better employee experience for our employees who serve that customer.
Wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And when you talk about customer experience improvement, like how do you measure that? What kind of
With
metrics
this,
are you using?
with this customer, it's a traditional CSAT measure, 1 to 5 scale. They're looking at 4 and 5s as satisfied customers, and we split between top box and top 2 box. We have customers all across the globe, whether it's NPS, effort score. If there's a CX measure out there, we have a client who operates in that way.
Okay. And are metrics changing at all with AI coming into the contact center, or are they staying the same?
The core metrics are the same. There's when we do have AI implementations, the two big things that we talk about are digital containment and productivity improvement as two of the big outcomes of AI implementations.
Do you see the phone channel as an enricher of the customer experience, or do you think customers don't want to have to call?
I would say customers don't want to call for things they think they should be able to do themselves. There are always times where we have to pick up the phone and get things done in that way. As a contact center professional, I do just about everything self-service, and I reserve truly complex issues to pick up the phone and interact with an organization that I buy from. That said, there are many different customer types. I'm just one of many. Some prefer that voice interaction by default. And that's not just a older generation, as some people like to think, but across the spectrum, there are buyer preferences for voice interactions. And many organizations do emphasize voice as a differentiator between them and their peers who have gone to a fully digital delivery system.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's interesting to look. You must have so many different brands that you represent that have really different views on the contact center. I mean, you can tell just from how companies how much attention is paid. Do they have a chief customer officer? Is that
Mhm.
something you track, like the growth of the importance of the customer role in the business?
It's a tough one to measure, but something that we do watch is the conversation in annual and quarterly earnings about priorities of businesses. And I would say that today we still see more than 75% of organizations that list customer experience as, if not the top, in the top three priorities for their organization. So it is super important. There are some companies that, of course, compete more on product, compete more on price, but by and large in the US, companies want to compete on experience.
Do you see a difference in the brands, the clients that are picky about like average handle time or other brands that say, you know what, let's let your agents talk as long as possible, like the Zappos style, where they want customers to they want the relationship to be enriched and they feel that the phone is a path to do that.
Absolutely. There are all kinds of different expectations for customers. And when we have a customer who's truly focused on average handle time, shortening that, the approach that we like to take is on removing waste. Because if I pressure an agent to just get through a conversation, that's not a good experience for them. It's not a good experience for the customer. And ultimately, it creates bad outcomes for my client's organization. So we try and look from a process redesign perspective. What are the things that are causing excessive time? And of course, variation. We have those who take long to finish a particular call and those who can do it more efficiently. Interaction analytics is a great technology to help enable that kind of analysis because we can look call type, agent by agent on 100% of interactions, what that variation is, and give them targeted feedback on how they can adjust their conversation, their approach to meet those objectives. So, of course, there we could debate about which one is the right way to go and which one is the wrong way to go. But I think as long as you have the customer and the employee in mind in whatever metric you're going to go drive, you won't go wrong.
Right. And you are a partner to these clients. What to what extent are you involved with helping them understand like where they can solve their gaps on their digital customer experience presence to help just create more efficient contact center experiences? So obviously a company that has a lot of self-service, the calls are not going to be as long or as high volume. So if a company doesn't really have a digital footprint, that's going to impact how you serve them.
Absolutely. It's a critical part of how we support our customers. So first, I would level set, and I would say the research that I look at would say you have a range of between 22% and 74% of interactions that are already done in self-help, self-service, or automated fashion. And that range is really about the industry that we're talking about. There are organizations that have yet to start that journey or are very early in it. And as we onboard those clients, we do an analysis of how they measure against their peers so that we can give them specific targeted interventions that they can take to improve their digital delivery if that's a priority of theirs. Once we have a client that's been ongoing with Teleperformance on a quarterly basis, we do a process improvement study across their business to look for things that we could further streamline, that we could implement in terms of new technologies, And the reality is, business and customers change over time. So what we decided 3 months ago or 3 years ago may not still be fit for purpose. So it's important we stay fresh and live in that conversation with our customers about how to adjust their digital strategy.
Mike, let's zoom out a little bit. You are a CEO running much of the business. What's the best thing about running? What's the best thing about working in the contact center business? And let's talk about the worst too.
The best is easy. It's the people that we get to work with an amazing, amazing group of people, whether it's in the US, the Philippines, India, Colombia, pick your country. We just have phenomenal teams who are dedicated to helping our employees serve our customers. And there is absolutely no way to get bored in this industry. There's always some challenge. There's always some new thing to learn and implement and do. And that's truly what I love about this business is the combination of people, problem solving. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
On the
And the
other
worst?
side, the worst. For me personally, I'm sure many people have different challenges. When I know a solution is right for a client, but we can't get the right approach to get the change to happen. Organizations have politics, have vested interests, have all these things outside of just the core solution. And knowing that you could make a material improvement for an organization and for the people that serve it, and not being able to do that is the biggest frustration for me in this business.
Okay. Well, let's talk about AI. Back to AI then, because I'm
Sure.
sure that is a more heated conversation now with clients because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of anxiety, excitement. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that prospects and clients come to you with about AI in the contact center?
First and foremost, that it's going to replace all of the people doing the work. As we've talked about so far today, there's always, in our view, going to be an important place for humans in the conversation in the CX domain. So that full replacement is something that we just don't see across the board. Second, that it's plug and play. People have interacted with ChatGPT. They see it from a consumer perspective and think, well, I'll just partner with OpenAI or with another organization to implement a large language model, and all the questions are going to be answered. The reality is that there's a significant amount of process work, change management, like we talked about earlier, fine tuning of a particular model, and determining a governance and security framework that ensures that your organization is not exposed to any undue risk. At Teleperformance, we've developed an AI security council with external resources across legal, IT, security, to not only take our internal information and views on how to protect that environment, but also some third-party thought leadership to help us reinforce and ensure that we're delivering the best possible for our clients.
Mike, for those of us in the contact center customer experience world, I think a lot of us have a utopian view. We'd like to believe, or I'd like to believe, that companies, as AI solves more problems, they'll still use voice as a way to enrich the experience, to add value, to contact customers and say, hey, here's how you can get more out of your product, or in a more service oriented fashion. And I'm just curious what your predictions are about the future contact center.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with you on that proactive service orientation. Many customers that I talk to, when they think about implementing AI and the productivity benefits that will create, the next conversation is immediately, what are we going to do with that? How are we going to go engage with our customers, ensure that they stay with us, ensure that they buy more over time as they think about a customer lifetime value? And a huge portion of the conversation about personalization. We talk a lot in the CX domain about customer cohorts or personas or whatever you like to call it. And we bucketize people based on those that are similar to them from an organizational perspective. AI, I believe, will unlock the potential for us to personalize at a one-to-one level like we've never been able to before in the contact center industry. And that's mostly because we didn't have the data and we surely didn't have the money to invest. But now with the data, the AI intelligence to serve that to an employee, they can do it with little to no effort and truly just be there for that one-on-one interaction.
Absolutely. So you're more optimistic about the future of the contact center.
Absolutely.
Would you recommend this industry to, let's say, people like in marketing and other departments that might be interested in customer experience but don't know how to get their foot in the door?
I think the contact center industry is both a great place to have a career as well as a great place to learn because when I think about the hundreds of clients that I've served over the years, I've had exposure to every industry, every kind of product, service, you name it, and that's something that creates a ability to connect dots that you don't get in other more focused industries. And when I say focused, I mean on a narrow set. Contact center, you have to be able to look wide and go deep super fast.
Yeah. Just a few more questions before we get into rapid fire and have some fun. You're processing millions of pieces of customer data in your contact centers. It's a complicated business, tons of brands. Can you just talk about how you approach the data and how that will change in relation to AI and more data?
Yeah. So data security has been an important part of the contact center world for a long time. We've been investing heavily in our information security team and framework, and it's something that we're constantly benchmarking against the best in class. And typically, those benchmarks are banking and financial services clients, insurance, and technology companies. So we look at the security posture that they take, try and benchmark and overachieve where we can. We also red team our internal processes. And for those who aren't familiar, looking to try and break down our own security practices so that we can patch any potential vulnerabilities that somebody might be able to find. And that's an ongoing basis. From an AI perspective, we partner again with enterprise level providers. So there's a decent level of security that comes just by way of the partners we choose to work with. And then from there, with almost all of those providers, you can create, I'll call it a ring fence instance that allows you to keep that client data separate from the large language model. And a lot of clients are concerned about that. They don't want a large language model that's trained on their proprietary information. So having that assurance that their data stays separate and secure has been super critical to our implementations.
Yeah, that it sounds like you're doing all the right things because I feel like that would be really hard to do with so many brands, so much data, and so many
It,
employees as well.
it's a lot of work, but it's super critical to our client's brand reputation as well as ours. And so every dollar spent, I say, is well invested.
Well, that's awesome. I've learned so much and I'm excited for you as you continue to grow and innovate and partner with clients on AI. So congratulations on all your success.
Thanks so much.
Let's do a little bit of fun to get to know you a little bit, Mike, before we wrap. Are you ready to take some rapid fire questions?
Always ready.
Okay, let's go. What is the most important part of your morning routine?
First 30 minutes of the day, no technology. I know that seems weird given that I interact with technology all day, but just being awake, being present, having a cup of coffee, seeing my wife and son without any haze of what's the rest of the day going to be, super important to me.
Love that. What show are you currently streaming right now if you are streaming a show?
I had to start House of Dragons as soon as it came out, and I'm eagerly awaiting episode 2.
Yeah, got it. Love it. Okay. What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
It's hard to say a particular favorite. But like I said about the call center industry, I like to look wide and then go deep because
Mhm.
it creates an opportunity for connections. And I think that people management is situational. You need to understand the individual, the situation you're in, and use all the tools that you've collected over years to be able to interact the right way with the person in that context. So reading as much as possible, no one particular source.
Got it. Okay. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Whew. Mentally engaged, solving problems with uh, a decent amount of time to enjoy life, be with the people I love and care about. That balance, and I know we talk a lot in the business setting about work-life balance, but I think it's mental engagement and relaxation coming together.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Mike. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I hope you'll come back next time and we can talk more shop and AI and contact centers. All right, everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and more.